Hi, Scott. Thanks for coming and talking to us on the Twin Peaks Tattoo Podcast.
Thanks for ruining your streak of having people who actually have tattoos.
I'm excited to talk to you about your new book, but I wanted to start by asking you because you have done so many things in 2025 related to Twin Peaks, publications, events, like podcasts, all kinds of things. So tell us a little bit about some of your highlights of this year.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of crazy. I guess there's a good and a bad. I mean, the good part of it is that it was the 35th anniversary of Twin Peaks, so there was bound to be a lot of celebration, which was nice. The sad part was we lost David Lynch in January,
Yeah.
and that sort of set the year up for me in having
Hmm.
to do that kind of stuff. I think I only had one thing planned the whole year, and then everything else came from David dying. Although I'm not sure about our class we did together. Maybe we did plan that before.
Yeah, we did. We did. Yeah.
We planned it the year before.
Hmm.
But most of the things just sort of happened because there was a renewed interest. And I feel like it's been a weird thing for me as a lifelong David Lynch fan, like watching him cross over to being John Lennon or Jimi Hendrix or Marilyn Monroe.
Hmm.
It's weird because
Yeah.
he's going to be like this icon in death. And it's
Yeah.
starting to feel weird because you really see like how people are thought of when they're alive versus when they're dead.
Hmm.
And it happens with, a lot of
Everybody. Yeah.
celebrities, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and regular people. But
Hmm.
knowing, like, just being a part of David Lynch and like his ups and downs, there were times in my life when no one cared about David Lynch. And, he was nothing. He couldn't
Hmm.
get arrested. And so it's just kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly January set the tone for a lot of things. And that was the impetus for the last Blue Rose, which is so beautiful. And you've got such amazing interviews in there, some of which are reflected in your new book, and some of which are just their own thing and articles and things like that. Um, One of the things that you were just talking about that made me want to reminded me to tell you is that as I was reading your new book, and I'll just say it, it's Twin Peaks Through the Red Curtain. It looks like this, and it's really beautiful. I actually really love the cover, but one of the things that came to me when I was reading it, I had a moment where I forgot that David had died. Like I just forgot because he's so alive in this book. And then when I remembered again and I realized what you did by bringing these voices in and bringing him to life again, I just started crying. And I just wanted you to know that it's really powerful in this way that you probably didn't even necessarily expect.
Well, it's because outside of the Kyle interview and Jen Lynch, probably everyone was interviewed when he was alive, so he is alive.
Mm-hmm.
And he is alive in the book. Because,
And you capturing these stories is keeping his work and his energy and his art alive. And that's something that I know we're like, I want to come back to your accomplishments of 2025, but I just want to say to you is that this is why oral history matters. And it matters to me and it matters to a lot of people in fandom. Just last week, I was recording a podcast for this and someone just brought it up and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that Scott is doing this. It really matters to me. It means a lot. I'm so glad that we have this history. And, you know, I just want you to know that it does really matter to people like me.
thank you. I mean, it's weird because this book wasn't my idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's weird because I've been publishing my own stuff for like whatever, 10 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the first book I ever published was a 30-something oral history, and that publisher, Bear Manor Media, they came and said, "Could you do to Twin Peaks what you did with 30-something?" And then I was like, "Well, that's funny because I already have. Like, I just had all these
It's
interviews."
crazy.
and I'd never put them together. I don't know if it was something that I would have done on my own, just like because I think I love Brad Duke's oral
Hmm.
history so much.
Totally.
And that's sort of like the first, in my opinion, it's the first Twin Peaks book that sort of kicked off everyone else doing their books.
Yeah.
Brad was really the first one.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, there is an oral history, but then I started to look at what I had, and what I had was kind of crazy because I also have Fire Walk with Me in The Return, where Brad's
Yeah.
book is just about Twin Peaks. And so the thing that sort of helped with that was thinking, well, this isn't by any means saying this is the definitive look at Twin Peaks because there isn't one.
Mm-mm.
And this is just the people that I crossed paths with and their opinions and their stories.
Yeah, well, I think it really builds on what, and certainly like Brad started this and it was what he did is incredible. It still is. I'm so glad to have that history. And then this builds, like you said, you have interviews that it's not that are not in his book and also that are from later on. And yeah, I really love how this book covers the return. But I want to go back to this year for you. What else stood out for you in terms of things that you were doing around Twin Peaks? You did a lot of things. You just made a post about it, and I was like, you did what? And then what? And then what? It's a
Yeah, I
lot.
mean, it is kind of crazy because I think it was the year before that I did nothing about Twin Peaks. So I'm glad I rested up because I took a year off
Uh-huh.
from, and
Hmm.
then like we did our workshop,
Hmm.
then we did the David Lynch memorial for fans.
Yeah, that was so important and
Because there
powerful.
really was nothing, no one was really doing anything right after David died. And then the Blue Rose was closed and done,
Hmm.
but it just felt like we should do one more. And Courtney Stallings, I was a little worried that she wouldn't come back because I could never do the Blue Rose without Courtney. She like she's my right hand person, and if I
Hmm.
don't have Courtney, I could never do it. And so
Yeah.
she was up for it, and John was willing to write a thing about David's career, and because
Hmm.
you got to have John Thorne in there for it to be all of it had to be all of us or none of
Yeah.
us. Everyone was really ready to go, and then went to Real Twin Peaks days, which I think is weird to think that Rebecca Del Rio was there and now she's passed too, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So it was like a rough year for Twin Peaks actors.
I think it was so for me, it was so powerful to be there in February, just right after, and to be with people and be in community in real life, not just online. I was really, really, really glad that we went this year and offered our little workshop offering, but also just got to be with people and kind of like talk and cry and whatever, have coffee, just be like sweet. It really meant a lot to me. You also did this big Chicago event.
Right, and that was also not planned. That I think they kicked off because David passed, if I remember correctly. I think it
Hmm.
was in talks, but I don't think it was locked in. And that was like a 10-day David Lynch thing. And
It's amazing.
that was really cool because that was not a sad event at all. It was really a celebration for what he did. And I think a lot of people loved it. And all those, I got to interview a ton of people there. And a lot of those are in the book as
Hmm.
well, which was kind of cool that I got those. Um, and then my music book
Yeah,
came
also that. Like two
out.
books that came out this year, no big deal. This is so beautiful, Scott. I was just looking again at all of, like the gorgeous pictures in here too, and just the way you set it up. It's so pretty. If you guys haven't gotten Always Music in the Air, add to cart. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, I mean, that one did not, that was a lot of work. So that didn't
Hmm.
just happen to fall out. Like that was
Right.
planned to come
Totally.
out. That was the one thing that was supposed to happen in 2026.
Uh-huh.
Um, and, it was all written before David died. And
Hmm.
sometimes I feel bad about some of the things I said because I am difficult. I put
No.
David Lynch through the paces on some of his song selection in The Return. And then I thought, oh, how are people going to accept this? But I still stand behind what I said. I
Yeah.
mean, I actually think there are some musical miscues, if you will, in The
Hmm.
Return.
Hmm.
Um, had I written that book after David died, would I be maybe as flippant and humorous and over the top? Probably not.
Uh-huh.
But I still actually think he made some mis. I just think I'll never forgive Green Onions. I'll never forgive Viva Las Vegas. And I'll never forgive the Van Halen or ZZ Top or what's the
Yes,
horrible
ZZ
song?
Top. The ZZ
I'll
Top
yeah,
moment. Uh-huh.
no.
And that my favorite Aurora Simone song is not on the soundtrack. So that's my issue that I take up with the return. And also whatever the name of the weird return soundtrack is that we talked about that they released. What is that called? We don't even know.
I
It's like
can't remember it even
a
after I
lot.
read it.
It just
I,
goes in and out.
it is impossible. I always feel like a spectacular trivia question would be what are the names of those albums? Precisely what are the names? That's the thing.
Mhm.
I couldn't do it. If they were like, oh, and the winner gets to go on a 3-week cruise with Cheryl Lee, I'd be standing on the dock watching Josh Eisenstadt board the ship.
I was gonna say he's probably the only one who knows. Oh my
And
God.
it's just because they're horribly titled. But
Mhm.
that probably is not David's fault.
No, I don't.
But
Mm.
slipping in some rock and roll to Twin Peaks, I think is just not right. But what
Mhm. In your new book, you have over 60 interviews, which is insane because also this book is not that big. How did you go about deciding how to take all of this source material that you have from over years, and put it together so concisely and so powerfully in a way that reads really well together and packs a punch?
well, the one thing is I've done a few oral histories before. So it's sort of like, if you know how to make a souffle, it's a lot easier than making your first souffle.
Right.
So I sort of know how to do it.
Mm,
So putting it together was not that hard. Honestly, the hardest part was finding them
mm,
and keep finding them because
yeah.
I wouldn't say I did a great job in keeping track of where I put things.
Hmm.
I actually did keep everything, which was good, but you would think I would have just had a folder in one
Hmm.
drive
Hmm.
that said Twin Peaks interviews.
Hmm.
That would have been a great idea. The problem is I have 5 external drives and they all had like probably 70% of these interviews were in every single one of the drives.
Uh-huh.
And then the other 30, there'd be one interview with John Pericello, like buried in that
Uh-huh.
folder. So you
Uh-huh.
couldn't just find a folder and go, oh, I've been through this before. I had to look at everything. And I also didn't name them. So they didn't have who I interviewed. It would just be like these series of numbers that the thing I used to record does. So I'd have to double click and listen. And that's how I found things that I totally forgot. I mean, John Pericello, that everything that he says in this book has never been published before
It's
because
amazing.
I interviewed him for the Blue Rose, and my half of the interview didn't record. Which on one hand you think, well, that's no big deal. Who cares? You got the John Pericello thing. But when it came time to put that together, because I thought, well, I'll remember what I said. I can just make something up. Who cares what I said? Yeah, you can't. You actually cannot do that. That does not work. And so I always had John saying these great stories, and I could never really use them in a Blue Rose. Well, for an
Mm,
oral history, I'm not in the book, so it worked out perfectly. I could just
mm.
take what it said and mix it in with George Griffith or Amy Shields or
He
whoever
tells
else.
some funny stories too. Like I'm in with what he's saying.
Yeah, and they've never been out before
Hmm.
because of my mistake of not. I don't know how it happened. Or I had, no, I don't think I ever had it because otherwise that interview would have been in the Blue Rose. But I certainly didn't find me. And then I traveled with Mike McGrainer for a little bit when he was doing, he's still doing them. And, they're great to see. He shows Firewalk with Me, and then Ray Wise and Cheryl Lee come out.
Mhm.
Well, the ones I went to, I recorded all of those. So those have never been in print. There's actually a lot in here that hasn't been in print. Um, but they have been out there in the world. They're just combined now.
And you have like a surprise that we're not gonna ruin, but a really, really fucking cool interview.
Yeah, there are new interviews because I'm working on a Wild at Heart book.
Mm,
And it was funny because while I've been doing those interviews, Wild at Heart was made during the first season of Twin Peaks. So most of the people did both
mm,
things. And while they were talking about Twin Peaks, I was thinking, am I going to put this in my Wild at Heart book? Like, I don't really want Wild at Heart to be about Twin Peaks. It's not really fair to Wild at Heart, but these are great stories. And then Bear Manor Media contacted me, and I had all these new Twin Peaks stories.
perfect.
So those are also all new from probably people that no one's ever heard of.
And that
And
are
very
very
cool.
important in the world of Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
So it's, if nothing else, that's a reason to get the book. Although there are many others reasons to get the book, but these are important things that you're preserving.
I'm trying to think of the lady's name. I'm looking at the list. Does it go on 2 pages? This is actually the first time I've looked at the book. Margot McKay was the first assistant director on the pilot.
Mhm.
I don't think she's ever been interviewed before. And her stories are great. Heidrun Reschoft is a German lady. I had to call her in Germany. She was the production assistant on Twin Peaks. Her stories have never been told before. And then Kim Benheim. Oh, no, 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 that's Lil. That's not her. It's Kim Wright, I think. Kim Wright was the set photographer, and she tells the story of Laura Palmer's prom picture. And that story has never been told before. So there are stories that have never been told. And there's a major revelation in this book. And because of the way I like to do books, I don't tell you what's important, and I won't tell you now. And I'm 100% certain that no one's ever gonna talk about it, notice it. And like if it was in what's like a crappy online thing people read?
Like Reddit or something. Is that what you
I
mean?
don't know, like a magazine, and there
Oh,
are articles. You know how there'll be articles
yeah.
that make you click.
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know. All I
Like
can think of is
clickbait.
the Onion, but the Onion is not real.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, something like that. They would be teasing the headline where I don't tell anyone.
Hmm.
I just let it sit in there, and then I wait and see if
Hmm.
anyone notices.
Hmm. Has no one has so far? You have not heard anything.
I've still never heard anything from my first book. So, no. People
Hmm.
would have to read them for that, and
Uh-huh. Hmm.
nobody likes to read them. They like to put them on their shelves.
Well, I read it, and for me, the stars of the book, this book, with all due respect to everybody that you interviewed, the stars for me of this book are Dwayne Dunham and Harley Payton. And um, I think readers are going to freak out about hearing all of what they shared. I know you've interviewed Dwayne several times, but Harley Payton talks about, this is probably like one of my favorite parts of this book. He talks about Audrey and how writing Audrey in the 90s, he says more specific, more generally, that writers in the 90s make mistakes of having women defined by their relationships with men. And he says, male writers make that mistake all the fucking time. And that's a mistake I'm sure I've made. It's like, okay, so many levels, like thinking about Audrey and her evolution, thinking about his consciousness and his own reflection, self reflection, and accountability, thinking back to his own writing, um, thinking about misogyny in how women are defined by men and like how that comes out inherently in writing. Anyway, love him, love that. Curious to hear your thoughts about what he shared there and how that shows up in Twin Peaks more generally, or not.
I agree with you. Harley Payton is the star of this book
Hmm.
because Harley Payton, who this year I'm supposed to be interviewing Harley Payton live on stage at Real Twin Peaks Day, but I don't know if that's really happening. I've not ever been asked. It was my idea and I gave it to them. No one has told me, yes, we want you to do it. No one has said, like, yeah, let's promote this. Like, there's nothing online about it. And it's
It's
everything that
everything.
people don't realize that Harley Payton is the third most important person in Twin Peaks. David and Mark are tied at one,
Hmm.
and then it's Harley Payton.
Hmm.
That's how it works.
Hmm.
I mean, he is that important. He
Yes.
knows everything there is to know. But what stands out about Harley from every other person is Harley is not afraid of anyone. Everyone else in the world,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
especially in my interviews, because
Hmm.
David was still around and everyone
Yeah.
had hopes of a season four, they're
Hmm.
not going to ever really tell you the truth
Yeah.
because they just want to be cast in David's next film. So you're never really getting past that. Harley doesn't care. So he just tells the truth, unfiltered.
Hmm.
And even as the quote you said was against himself. It's not like he's trying to burn bridges or say
Totally.
things. It's not that. He's just telling the truth. And
Yeah.
in 2025, a human being telling the truth is, it's like seeing someone run naked down the street.
Hmm.
On one hand, you're like, hey, someone's naked. I'm gonna look. But then also it's disturbing because why is someone running naked down the street?
Yeah.
And we don't know how to handle that. It,
Totally.
it's literally that way reading his comments. And he actually says something that I actually think is a better topic than the one you're bringing
Oh,
up.
better. Okay.
But it's on the same thing about Audrey. I do think the Audrey Cooper stuff really does come out well in this book because of the people that I interviewed, because I have Sherilyn Fenn in it.
Hmm.
She's very opinionated too, especially when I interviewed her, because I had interviewed Sherilyn Fenn before The Return. So that helped.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? She was
Yeah.
much more open about things in
Yeah.
that. But he says something that to me is so freaking fascinating. The person I lost my place for a second. Wait a minute, I'm trying to remember what is it? Oh, because if you look online, and I actually just saw this on Twitter, where someone is saying, "Oh, a high school girl in Cooper's bed. This is gross. Twin Peaks is gross." And people always go to a bad place with Cooper and Audrey,
Hmm.
as if their relationship was built on sex.
Hmm.
But Harley says in the book, and Sherilyn Fenn says in the book, it wasn't about getting them to be a couple. It was about keeping them on screen together, that it was the on-screen chemistry between Sherilyn Fenn
Hmm.
and Kyle MacLachlan. And
Yes.
when they were on screen together, it lit a spark.
Hmm.
But the plan was not for them to have sex. And I think that's an interesting thing because I've never really heard someone talk about that or point that out, that it wasn't that they were going to get together. And if you look at what happened before they split, because basically Sherilyn Fenn and Kyle MacLachlan are not on screen together for the majority of season two. They
That's
just
true.
stopped doing it. Once he
Hmm.
rescues her,
Hmm.
that's really, she says goodbye to him in his room and then sees him for a second with David Duchovny, and that's it. They're not on
Hmm.
screen together.
Hmm.
Imagine that we take out of our minds the sexual aspect of it, because everyone has to immediately go to the sexual aspect. What if Cooper would have become her mentor?
Hmm.
and had because she needed a strong male because Sherilyn Fenn also talks a lot about how Audrey's troubles are, from not having a father
Yeah.
figure from Ben.
Hmm.
And when you take the things Harvey says, Harley, um, he wasn't pushing that way either.
Hmm.
He understood she was a high school girl.
Yeah.
That was not the plan. I think that was like the press's plan.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's a revelation that people hadn't thought of before. I don't know. I hadn't heard people talk about it. I mean, I'm sure you have opinions on Audrey and Cooper. I mean, what is your thoughts?
No, I love that idea of him being, well, I think what he starts out to be with her, which is an appropriately boundaried man in her life who can love and care about her and not try to exploit her or that she has to do something for to get his attention. Like, I think that setup in season one is really powerful and strong. And I'm curious, yeah, now you're making me think about what it would be like if that was able to continue, but it couldn't, to the reasons you're saying. And also I think like drama on the set and all that kind of stuff, right? It's like it couldn't
Right.
happen.
Yeah,
um
because I think Kyle wasn't going to let it happen.
mhm,
Sherilyn Fenn is very open to say, like, it was Audrey who fell in love with Cooper. And why wouldn't she? Of course she
of
fell in love
course.
with Cooper.
Hmm.
But if we want to have Cooper be a hero, which that's a whole nother argument, but let's just take him as from what he was in season one, where Mark and David were interested in him being a hero. He was not going to bang. He wasn't, he didn't come to town to bang a high school chick.
Right.
Like, I think it says so much more about you because I don't remember feeling that way in 1990. I
Uh-huh.
never thought about it in that way. You just loved Cooper and Audrey.
Hmm.
I wasn't like, oh, I hope
Uh-huh.
he statutory rape this episode. Like nobody was talking about it. But now it's like all anyone can see now is
Hmm.
the worst side instead of that he could have. I don't know. I think those things are interesting. And you only get those things by talking to the writers, the crew people.
Exactly.
Like that's how you find that stuff out.
Hmm.
What was the idea?
there's a there's a really cool part in an interview you did with Dwayne Dunham and Mark Ross, actually, but I wanted to talk to you about it because it's something you and I talk about a lot, which is they talk about letting emotion guide the choices when it really connected to editing. And Dwayne says, when it comes to editing, emotion is always at the top of the pyramid. Story is a sort of distant second, which I love that. And specifically, he's referring to the moment when in the pilot when Sarah asked if Laura's with Leland, and you just see the sheriff come in and you just see his face and nothing is said. Um, and it's like showing without telling. And Mark talks about showing grief, not talking about it, because like when you're grieving, you're not like, I'm grieving right now. Like you're
Right.
just fucking, you're just out of your mind, you're just caught in the emotion. And both of them having that perspective and philosophy when writing and editing and creating is so important. It's something you and I talk about too in film. Anyway, I just wanted to like open that and hear your thoughts around it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Dwayne talks about is that he edits with no sound because he said it really doesn't matter what the lines are. He's just looking at the performance. And I think that comes across a lot in the pilot. You can see that because you feel everything.
Mm-hmm.
You feel Ray Wise's performance. And even, I've seen that scene a billion times, and you're not supposed to pick bests or favorites, but I really think it's David Lynch's best directing. Like maybe it's the most easiest to see directing.
Uh-huh.
He might have done something that we can't see. But to me, you are pulled along in that scene when the sheriff comes up.
Totally.
And no one ever talks about Michael Onking's performance,
Mm.
but his performance, he's carrying the weight of Laura's death,
Totally. My
so
God.
much so that he doesn't even need to tell Ray Wise.
Mm-hmm.
and it's all there. And
Hmm.
so what Dwayne talked about was just that he edited it emotionally and then laid the Laura Palmer theme on top of it, and it just fit. There were no edits because
That's fucking crazy.
everyone felt the same emotion at the same pacing at the same time, and it
Hmm.
all comes together in that way, which is really cool.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, it's gorgeous those moments where it's such a relief when characters aren't telling you the thing that's happening. They're showing it, they're feeling it. It's in the editing, it's in the music. It's like it's all right there for you.
Well, and the Grace scene of her screaming is always talked about. And I'm in the middle of watching a show from the 90s that I've actually never seen in my life before. And I'm watching NYPD Blue. I've not seen it before.
Mhm.
The amount of times the police go to the parents and say, your kid has been brutally killed out of nowhere, smashed by a truck. They have no body left.
Oh my
And the
God.
parents will not cry, will not react. They'll say, well, that's funny. They just told me they were going to be with Jimmy on 14th Street. And they had a bag, looked like it had drugs in it. And then after they give their plot point, then they will go, and they'll go, oh, take care of yourself. We'll be back later to talk more.
Oh my
And I think like that was the thing about Twin Peaks that I'll never get over.
God.
Like
Hmm.
you may not like Grace Zabrisky's response, but guess what? Her daughter just died. And she
Yeah,
wouldn't been able to have given, like say what happened, where Laura was or whatever. She's losing it. And that's more real to me than than these people on these shows from the 90s where they're just giving plot points.
totally. I mean, she's in shock trauma. She's wailing. That's what you would do. You wouldn't be like, that's funny. You wouldn't do that. It's
Right.
not,
But they always give the clue that the cops
it's
need before they
ridiculous.
cry, because the cops are there to get it. And I think that's just funny. And it's because most shows, you're not there to care about the person who was murdered. You're supposed to care about the cops
Hmm.
solving the murder. Those are the people they want you
Mm,
to care about. And they don't want you getting, don't worry that someone was murdered. That murder was just for fun. So we can watch this hour.
yeah.
And I don't know. That to me is why Twin Peaks, we're still talking about it 35 years later.
There's some fun things in here, and I'm not going to give it all away, but there's a in you have a Jan Darcy interview where she talks about a scene that was cut that I didn't know about. I didn't know something that I didn't know about Machen's uniform, that it was her OG uniform. There's just like things I did not. I'm like, what? I'm like making notes. I'm like, what? But there's one thing that made me laugh so hard when David Patrick Kelly is talking about the smoking cheese pig and how it came about. And I'll leave that story to the book, but he says, I think there's some kind of Freudian thing of sex and food. There's a connection for Jerry. Maybe it is missing mommy or something in the cheese for him. And I was like, and I wrote really big. I was like, yes, you got it. It totally is. And like, cheese is milk and there's breast milk and it's like all there because I just went on like a whole psychological moment with this really cute quote about a smoking cheese pig. And like, this is why Twin Peaks is so fun.
Well,
And
and he's
it
got the
matters.
brie bread,
Yes. Yes, there's a lot
and
around
there's
cheese
the
and
mother's
milk.
hat in the new one. And so,
There's mother
yeah.
wounds galore with both of the horns, which is interesting that then there's a father wound that Ben perpetuates.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it is
this is
fun to
fun.
find out about that smoked cheese pig
Uh,
because that is exciting.
it's a really cool story. Um, there's there's so many beautiful things that that you have with Cheryl Lee in here. And just the stories again of what she has to contend with when she deals with fans and talks to people, and people approach her out of nowhere, and what she carries with her. Um, and it was really powerful to read that in almost, it felt like, I don't know if you added more, but it felt just really full, like there was a lot more of her story. Maybe some of it's pulled from the Blue
It,
Rose or other
well,
interviews that you've
part of
done.
it is that crazily, Cheryl Lee is probably the person that I've interviewed the most, which is nutty.
Mm,
So I have a lot of stuff with Cheryl Lee that's never all come together
mm,
at one time.
mm.
That could be why.
Yeah,
Because
it's
it's
really
not
good.
all been out, all the things she said.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's really, really good. And there's a powerful quote from Jen Lynch that, well, all of your Fire Walk with Me stuff is always my favorite, and I love your Fire Walk with Me book. But Jen says, Fire Walk with Me is one of the best movies about child abuse I've ever seen. And I've never heard someone say something like that about Fire Walk with Me. And it's just like a mic drop. It's like, right, that's exactly what it is. And you talk a lot about how if people are not seeing that, they're missing so much of what Fire Walk with Me is.
Yeah, it's why I don't know, I sort of get prickly when someone says that Firewalk with Me is a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
And it it is scary, but I feel like you have to start by saying it's a film about child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Exactly.
you can say it's scary. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like if you just say it's a horror film, then you're focusing on, oh, Bob is a demon. I mean, I don't know. I suppose you could make a child abuse film that would be a horror film. But to me, it's a family drama. And when you're talking about child abuse, it's going to be scary.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It could be splitting hairs, but I just don't like it.
Well, it's upsetting when people miss the point. If you're just seeing it as a horror movie, or you're just seeing it as like a weird David Lynch movie, you're missing the point of how important it is that it's Laura's story.
Right. Yeah.
And it's Laura's story, and it's so many of our stories, and that's the whole thing of what she carries.
Yeah. And I feel like even Ronette Pulaski and Teresa Banks, I mean, yeah, they're not developed in Firewalk with Me because they're just, there's so much in Firewalk with Me. You couldn't develop everyone. They couldn't even put the regular cast members in there, but you get enough of their stories to know that they are also abused,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess it's interesting that Ronette is the only one who escapes, which is an interesting thing. Like, why is Ronette the only one that gets out? But
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's a lot. And you could say, oh, well, that's a horror film because she's in the train car and it's scary and this thing. But I don't know. I just never look at Firewalk with Me. Like, I remember in the video store when you'd see Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me in the horror
Like in the
section.
horror section. Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I remember that
no,
too.
it should be
Mm-hmm.
in the drama section.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
drama.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, your favorite scene in the series is the happy scene. What's something that you learned about this scene from the interviews that you did?
The interesting thing is that I can't truly find out who wrote it.
Mm,
That's what's really fascinating to me. No one really knows like who put pen to paper
mm,
and said like, I'm gonna tell you a joke or whatever, and
mm-hmm.
when all that stuff with the penguin
With
and
the
the
penguin
tuxedo.
joke. Mm-hmm.
No one really remembers it. Now, they all say that knowing that David Lynch was going to be on screen, that it was all hands on deck. And probably, Mark probably got the final say at a minimum. But it, it's my favorite scene. It's everything you want Twin Peaks to be. And I also think it shows that the show could have lived on. Like,
Mm.
if you have those characters and you have that town, that show could have went on for much longer and it would have been fine because that's real late in it's episode 25. So
Yeah, it's
like
late. Mm-hmm.
it's late
Mm-hmm.
and it just makes you so happy.
Yeah.
I love it. And it was fun when I interviewed Kyle for the Blue Rose, I made him watch it with me, which is, I mean, I should never have done that. I asked him,
Yeah, yeah,
I
of course.
said, do you want to see it or do you want I just want to talk to you about it. I have it queued up. We don't have to watch it. And he said, no,
Mhm.
let's watch it. And he was laughing and he really enjoyed it. And that was really close after David died, which I'm sure it wasn't easy. I didn't make him watch the whole thing. I had him watch the front part where he comes in.
Uh-huh.
And I think they sit together and then he goes to talk to
Mhm.
Machen. But that was a pretty cool thing to get to do is to get to watch that
I
with
mean,
him.
how surreal is your life when you're watching the happy scene with Kyle in real time?
Yeah,
Like,
crazy.
like what would 1992 Scott Ryan think about 2025 Scott Ryan watching that with Kyle?
I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't even imagine that even last year that I was ever going to get to interview Kyle. Like I
Hmm.
always just thought he was going to be the one that I was never going to get.
Uh-huh.
And he was so great. Like I really, really, really liked Kyle. He didn't phone it in. It wasn't
Hmm.
like, I mean, he was very thoughtful on all of his answers.
Hmm.
Um, it was really good. I mean, I liked, I mean, I could have talked to him for hours and hours. I only talked to him for an hour. So you have to pick your questions. And we talked obviously more about the return than the original series because
Hmm.
it's newer. And I knew, and I also think Kyle's work, like as an actor, if you're really going to talk to him, you have to talk about the return. Not that he's not great in the original, but the return,
I
like,
mean, like what he's doing in the return is unbelievable.
yeah, with all the parts he plays and doing them so well. And it's funny that we sort of all talk about how Cheryl got robbed of an Oscar for Fire Walk with Me, but Kyle really got robbed of
He
not winning the
really
Emmy.
did.
The Emmy is not that big of a deal compared to an Oscar. Like it's hard to win an
Yeah,
Oscar, but an
sure.
Emmy for limited series,
Come on.
he should have won.
Well, he
I mean, Ewan
100%.
McGregor did not deserve to win.
Who was
I'm
it?
sorry. Ewan McGregor
For
won
what?
for Fargo, which I
Oh,
liked.
I didn't
He
see it.
played two characters. He played twins, just like
Wow.
Kyle, but it wasn't anywhere near the same.
Hmm.
Like it
Hmm.
wasn't what
Hmm.
Kyle did was insane.
It was insane what he did. And is some of the interview that you did with him in this book that wasn't in the Blue Rose or like some
Yes.
parts? Yeah. So there's new things with Kyle
Yeah, 'cause
too.
I couldn't put it all in because the Blue Rose, that last Blue Rose, like everyone was fighting for space.
Hmm.
And we actually got Kyle kind of late in the game. So we
Hmm.
had to shuffle things around. I think I fired Stephen Miller, if I remember
No,
correctly.
Stephen Miller's in there.
Yeah, but I think he was gonna do more.
Oh, he was gonna do more. Okay.
Yeah, I
How
think
dare you
I
fire Stephen Miller? Gosh.
and then but I think I actually did say you're out, and then we could get a page in and
Mhm.
I could bring Steve. I mean, yeah, just for Stephen Miller, I fired the mayor of Twin
I
Peaks.
know. The
I mean, it
mayor.
was hard because we had
Mm.
so much stuff to get in.
Mhm. Um,
So,
what is what is like the weirdest interview that you've done?
oh, definitely Lil from
Mm.
Firewalk with Me. That was the weirdest interview. She was, um, I think she knew she was being interviewed, but I couldn't say for sure.
Mhm.
It was, and I was the first one to ever talk to her about Twin Peaks. I'm publishing a book by Brent Simon in 2026 called The Dreamer's Path that's about David Lynch, the actor. And he's interviewed uh, Lil
Well,
for that. And he got, I think, more normal answers and a little bit more substantive because I was just doing the Firewalk with Me part of that book and I
mhm.
saw and I thought, look at that. Oh, she could have told me that story. She just couldn't. She was interesting, but
Mhm.
she's in this book, so that's the first time that's been in print as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with Lil. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. The delivery in the middle of the interview was really good. Um, this book feels really complete to me. And in other ways, it can never really be complete because we can never be complete talking about it and hearing stories about the show. Um, and is there anyone's voice in particular that you feel like is missing from this book that you would have wanted to include if you could?
I mean, I've always wanted Joanna Ray. There's probably
Mm,
no one that I've tried harder to get than Joanna Ray.
mm,
She is David Lynch's casting director,
mm,
and so she cast everyone from all three things. And I just can't, she just doesn't want to talk to me. The other one is Corey Glazer. Those are probably the two interviews that I want the most. And I do think that Brent, he's quoting Corey Glazer in his book. And I forgot to ask him, did he really get an interview with her or how did that happen?
Who
Corey
is
has
that?
always told, Corey is the script supervisor.
Script supervisor.
So
Okay.
she sits next to David. She has the curly hair.
Oh
So
yeah,
if you
yeah.
ever watch the behind the scenes, she's
Mhm.
always sitting next to David with the script. And her, like Mike Malone, who is in the book, has was sitting right there for everything. So when you get
That's
that
crazy.
person,
Mm,
I've wanted her for my Lost Highway book, for Firewalk with Me, for Wild at Heart. I always ask Corey, and she always tells me no. And I sort of put my Wild at Heart book aside at the moment. Because I was struggling to get some of the interviews that I wanted. So I thought maybe it was too close to David's death. Let's give it a little time and then I'll come back. So I'm going to re-pester Corey and Joanna one more time because I
mhm.
really, really would like to get them.
Well, I think that again, like I was saying about how I feel like David is so alive in your book, I feel like Joanna Ray is there too because you've got so many people talking about being casted and like the casting process and how it worked for them and working with her on that. And that's really cool. And the other thing that I feel like in this book, but also particularly in Always Music in the Air, is that even though you don't have Angelo's words, he's there and I can feel him in both of your books. And I just wanted you to know that because he's like missing, but he's not missing at all.
Yeah, I mean, in the thing that's made it better for me with Angelo is meeting Laurie Eschler and
Mm-hmm.
realizing that Laurie really did the things that I thought Angelo did.
Uh-huh.
Because while I was, you can kind of talk to someone about writing music, but you also can't because there's no explanation for writing music. But I was more interested in how this music was laid here and why they used this song and how they did these things and how Teresa Banks' Morgue song is incredible with all this layering. Well, it was actually Laurie that did that.
Mm,
So I've had those questions answered for me. So that
yeah.
helps in a lot of ways. With Corey, I don't know what she knows, but I do know that what she knows is going to be fascinating.
Totally.
And I'm never trying to get secrets from people. We're not
Yeah.
trying to ruin anything.
No,
We're
no.
just capturing the truth for history.
Exactly. And again, I just want to say that it really matters to me and it really matters to a lot of people in fandom. So I just want you to know that if you're hearing any rhetoric that oral histories don't matter, I mean, what Brad did a long time ago, it deeply matters to us in lore and it matters what you continue to do and your live events too, not just what you have captured in your books, but in all the conversations that you've had. I mean, watching your conversation with like Charlotte Stewart, it's so sweet, it's so funny. Like there's just such great rapport. I mean, you're an incredible interviewer. What you've done for the Twin Peaks community over the years in regards with this is outstanding.
It's just fun for me. Like, I'm just doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for anyone else. It's nice that these books come out, but I don't care. A lot of times I just get the information and I'm fine. At least I know. And, if I share it or not, it's the same with Wild at Heart. I'm getting some really interesting stuff about Wild at Heart. And to me, that's cool. Then, oh, as a side thing, I guess I'll put it in a book.
Yeah, I really am excited for your Wild at Heart book. I hope it, yeah, time has passed and you'll come back to it.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I won't give up because I have some great stuff. I really have enough to stop, but Laura Dern's people have turned me down, and I
mhm,
want to give a little more time. There's probably a lot of people asking at that point, and if I just wait a little bit longer and see, I'm going to see what if I can. I'll pick it up here pretty soon.
mhm. So speaking of music, just to plug that in the spring, you and I are going to do offer a workshop like we've done in the past, but this is a new one with a focus on music. And we don't know exactly all of the bits and things that we're doing, but really building from your always music in the air book and all of the knowledge that you have and all of Write the Stars of your book, Lori Eschler being one of them, like you had mentioned. And we'll have a special guest and all of that. So I just wanted to plug that. We're going to be doing it. It's going to be good.
Yeah, it worked out really well last year. I feel like people enjoyed the classes, and I learned a lot from the people that took the class
Same.
because I always love to hear someone's new idea, especially when I think it's not true at all. Those are my favorite when I think, oh, that's ridiculous, and tell me more. Those are always my favorite.
Mhm. Mm. Um, okay, so how can people get your new Twin Peaks book through the red curtain with the greatest cover?
So yeah, they wanted to call it Behind the Red Curtain, I think. And I said, no, that's on the um, DVD. Those are what the features are
Oh,
called. So I
oh,
said, we
okay.
can't do that. And I had just got this picture of Bob and the little man going through the red curtain. So I thought, ooh, I figured this picture would be much better.
It's
Yeah,
very
it did come out very nicely. I didn't design the book. Maybe that's why it looks nice. And it doesn't have like a ton of pictures like I do in my books when I design them. It was interesting to see how someone else does things.
hmm
It was kind of fun. This was like a little vacation for me because I didn't have to do very much. I
It's
just put it
nice.
together and there it is. But they can go to bluerosemag.com and get all of our Twin Peaks stuff is there. There's no more Blue Rose. They're all gone, but we still have a lot of books. And like I said, we have a book about David Lynch's acting coming up,
I'm excited about that.
and many other David Lynch books. We'll keep covering it as long as people are so interested.
Well, and the good news is they always will be. So you're not going to have a problem there. And we will share more information about our music workshop once we have it and hope that you all will join us because it will be very enlightening and fun and cute. And I'll pull tarot like I usually do. And Scott, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with me here at the end of the year and reflect on things and share about your stories and about your new book. And I just appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for not making me get the tattoo.